And welcome to Touchline. I'm your host, Anthony Totera, coming to you from the U of T Coaches Conference. And right now, joining us is a host of coaches from all over the country and former players as well. We'll start with Candace Chapman. Candace, welcome. First question goes to you and to all here on the panel. Coaching in 2014, how has it changed from the last 20 years that you've noticed?
I think it's, for me personally, that I've noticed in my journey, it's gotten a lot more personal, and the connection with the players has gotten to be more of a huge part of the game rather than stepping in and out of players' lives.
Marco, yourself?
I think there's more of a focus on the ball. I think coaches have done some of their homework and realized that a lot of the old school ways just weren't working, and there's a much more focus on using the ball in training for young players.
Victor?
Well, Anthony, I think there's more available to coaches nowadays, online, in seminars like this, through education. The coaches are at a level now where the game is becoming more advanced, and in Canada we can see it now that players are at a level that's a lot higher than it was 20 years ago.
Rob?
I think, generally speaking, that we've gone away from the drills, and everything has become more functional and more personal, much like Candace has said. And I think there's more interaction between coaches and players, and it's just smarter, I think, nowadays.
Next question, Candace. Parents and coaches, how do we get them to understand what their roles are?
I think it just comes from education and them knowing, like, actually what their role has to be, and I think that's others stepping in and telling them, if you're going to coach at this level, this is what the expectations that needs to be, and I think everyone just needs to help each other.
Well said, Marco.
Yeah, I agree with Candace. I think they need to be educated on exactly what we're trying to do here in regards to LTPD. At the same time, they've got an important role to play as mentors, as a shoulder to lean on. So, I mean, we need to work with them. Coaches need to work with them. Everyone needs to work together for the amelioration of the athlete.
Rob?
I definitely agree with Candace. I think the answer in theory is simple, but it's much more complex than that. But definitely communication, personality of the coaches as well, and keeping everybody informed and having that trust, I think, between the coaches and the parents themselves.
Victor?
Yeah, I agree. It's education. I think that's the key word. I think the more we can educate parents, coaches out there, we can all become, familiar and get onto the same path and work towards the same goals.
Next question in regards TFC, and how important is it, Candace, that they are so vital and important to grassroots youth clubs in Ontario? Is it important that they get there to the youth clubs and make them feel part of the family?
I think just having TFC as a role model and something for younger players to strive to is something that's huge in itself. And I think using like that is going to help our youth players, something to strive for.
Marco, TFC, how much more do they need to do to help out today in the community?
Well, I mean, we've had these discussions before. I think they got off on the wrong foot in regards to building relationships in the soccer community. I think they're making strides to overcome the issues that have been obstacles in the past. I had a TFC coach ask me this weekend if we wanted to have our groups play some friendlies against them. That's the way to go. I don't think any coach in this province or in this country, for that matter, would hold their players back from playing with TFC. But I mean, they need to start building better relationships for sure.
Rob, you come from Thunder Bay. Obviously, you're not at a point where you get to see many pro clubs up there help you out. How important would it be for TFC to travel up there with some of their academy coaches to help out?
I think it's vital. I think that's one of the real pieces of the puzzle that's been missing for Canadian soccer, is that I think we leave too many stones unturned, and we don't know where the next great player is going to come from. And, there's a possibility that it could come from Thunder Bay, and we don't know. So we need that direct relation, and I think what it provides for us is it provides all our kids with that aspiration, like Candace was saying, to aspire to be the professional player.
Victor?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a great opportunity there for TFC to be a leader in the community, to build those relationships and to guide everyone in the right direction. I think they've made some very good moves this year, so hopefully that's the spark to something bigger and better.
Let's start with you on the next question, Victor. Let's turn it around. Let's talk about communication and how important is it that the coaches communicate to those bench players that they are vital and important and get their confidence at a level that the other starters have.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that's a key importance that coaches communicate with their bench players just as they do with any other player on their team. I think as a coach, you have to see every player on your team equally, and you have to be able to communicate with all of them, you know, regardless of what their position or how much playing time they get.
Rob?
I think it's easy to say, but difficult to do. It's all, like Tony was talking about in his in-class session today. There needs to be a relationship between the coach and those bench players, and I think again there needs to be a trust there. And in order for the whole team to succeed as a whole, they have to be on the same level as everybody else, and it's the coach's responsibility to keep them in tune with that.
Communication, Marco. How about if that bench player wants to prove the coach wrong and wants those starting minutes, but you as a coach are not giving them that opportunity? How damaging can that be to a player?
It can be. I think Tony said it well today. You have to have everyone buy in. You have to have everyone trust the coach. And everyone's got a role to play on a team. You're only as strong as your weakest player, you know, most teams. So I think players just need that feedback. I think coaches need to give it often. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying to a player, look, you're still in my plans, but this is what you need to do better, and you'll get your chance eventually.
Well said. Candice?
I think for me, it even comes from changing the mentality of saying bench player. For John, what he did is he changed our whole team's culture, and it's not a bench player. You're finishing the game, and that's a huge part, coming on and finishing a game. And that's why, as a team, it's about having a high level of honesty of what your role is, and also, I agree, everyone buying into like what you want to accomplish.
Anthony Capatos, the U of T Coaches Conference, have done an outstanding job. And I think today we saw so many coaches from all over. Coaches that want to learn, coaches that care. But I got to tell you, I got a lot of emails and people that have told me, Anthony, why would I want to waste my money and time all weekend to come here? I understand what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Why do I need to be here? And my answer to them was this. Check your egos at the door. How important is it, if we're going to grow as a nation, as a province, that club presidents, TDs, parents, everyone checks their egos at the door and listen to people like Tony DiCecco and listen to people like Mark Dos Santos?
Yeah, I mean, like I've said to you before, Anthony, the game is continuously changing. The game is continuously progressing, moving forward, getting faster. You know, it's advancing, and coaches need to stay on top of that. So things like this, seminars such as this one, allow us to get together, allow us to watch others, allow us to learn from others and learn from each other. So I think it's important.
Well said. Rob, what have you learned? And was it a waste of time for you to be here?
Absolutely not. We have 8 coaching staff here, including myself. It's never a waste of time. Anytime you can hear somebody talk about something that it relates to soccer, when you can see on-field sessions, in-class sessions, I really don't think there are any egos to check, and no offense to Candice, but I don't think we've proven anything to anybody yet. I don't think we're a nation that has proven anything yet. So as far as I'm concerned, we're underdogs. We should have no egos. Everybody should be learning from everybody here.
Bang on. Candice?
No offense taken. I agree. I think these type of conferences is an opportunity to learn, and when you become a better coach, it's only going to make your players better. I think having an ego in thinking that you know everything is just going to hinder yourself to become a better coach, and also hinder your players. So taking the mentality that I'm here, and whatever sessions there are, whatever topics there are, there's got to be something that you can take from it, whether it's, hey, I'm never going to do something like that with my team, or hey, it's something that I can do with my team. There's got to be something that you can take away from it.
Well said, Marco.
Yeah, she hit it on the nail. Not every coach is going to agree with everything they see here this weekend. Yes, this weekend is about learning and sharing ideas, but it's also a weekend to say, hey, you know what, we're not doing it right. We haven't been doing it right. Let's all get together, put our egos aside, and see if collectively we can get this thing going and turn things around for this country and this game in this country.
Well said, Marco. Another question very quickly. All over the world, academies compete with clubs. In Ontario, it's not happening. I'm still mystified at this. We'll start with Marco Retta because we know that he's got a lot to say about this. But I think, Marco, you come from a different perspective. You played as a youth at the club level. You played pro in Europe and in MLS, and now you're with an academy. So tell us about both worlds and how they can both help the players.
Sure. I don't think the argument should never be about club versus academy. For me, it's about environment. If the environment is good, if the environment is safe, if the environment is enjoyable for the kids and their learning, then whether it's a club or an academy is besides the point. I think there is an avenue for them to work together. I think that's the only way forward, in my opinion. Right now, that's not happening, but I've got hope for the future, and hopefully it happens soon.
Candice?
Guys, I got to be honest with you. I don't know enough about this subject to have an informed opinion, but it sounds good what this guy just said.
Let me ask you this though, Candice. How important is it that the best players play against the best players, whether they're in a club or an academy atmosphere?
You're only going to get better if you play against better players. It's kind of like a no-brainer to me. So. Yeah.
Well said. Victor, you've got a lot to say about this. I know you're passionate as well as Marco is, but make your points clear and so people understand why you're so passionate about academies.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm passionate about academies, Anthony. I'm passionate about the game, and I feel our talent pool is already slim enough. So the fact that we're cutting it down by not bringing everyone under the same umbrella and allowing players to take that same path, we're just hurting ourselves. So in my opinion, let's get everyone together. Let's bring them all under the same umbrella. Let's work together. Let's identify those best players. Let's have them playing against the best players out there, and let's develop players together.
Well said. Rob?
Well, coming from Thunder Bay, I'm probably one of the more unbiased people when it comes to academies because we don't have any academies there. So maybe I can't contribute as much, but to me, we're already geographically split up, and we have so many concerns that way. I can't see why we would be fighting ourselves amongst ourselves. Like you said, best players must be playing against the best players. It's the best way to do it, and I think there's just too many agendas, personally.
Last question is this. We'll start with you, Candice. I appreciate everyone's time here. Candice, I've noticed, especially in the teenage years, whether it's the young ladies or the young men, that winning mentality, that going through a brick wall is not there. Where in the US of A, that is ingrained in their minds. In Germany, in Italy, in Portugal, in a scrimmage, they want to win. Here in Canada, we lack that. Why?
I think it's just boils down to culture and how you grow up around the game. I think for us, we can't force something that's maybe not there, but we can develop things that are. And I think one of our biggest strengths are finding those people who have character, and character is going to lead to passionate players, and passionate players that'll do anything for the team and for them to progress to the next level and win games. So I think we might take a different approach, but it's not to say that we don't want to run through brick walls, because there are kids out there that will do that. I just think that it's a different culture here.
How do we change that culture, Marco?
It's our job as coaches. I think Colin Miller and Mark Dos Santos, put it perfectly this weekend. Us coaches need to change behaviors, and those behaviors start in training. Kids need to have the desire to win every small-sided game, every passing exercise, every friendly match in training. At a certain age. I'm not saying maybe at 8, 9, 10, but as they get older, they need to develop behaviors, and those behaviors will eventually translate into matches. How they behave on a training session on a Wednesday, it's gonna have effect on how they behave in a match on a Sunday.
Well said, Rob. How do we bring that professionalism to the teenage young men and young women at winning at an important situation at the national level?
I think it's obviously a massive challenge, but one of the quotes that I always say to my young players is that champions hate to lose more than they love to win, and if we can instill that mentality from a very young age, I think that's what's going to start changing the culture in our country.
Victor?
Yeah, I believe it comes down to knowledge and intelligence at the end of the day, Anthony. We need to become better as coaches. We need to become better as educators. We need to educate the players, the parents, other coaches in the game, and that way it'll all filter down, and through the system, and that way we'll become better as a soccer nation.
Players, coaches that care, we thank them so much for taking time here to talk to us about the issues that mean so much to us. Let's hope that we can get to this province and this country to the next level to help develop players for the national level. Thank you to all for joining us here on Touchline.